Alright, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at the Merkava Mk.2D. This is the first tier 9 Merkava that we have received in the game, and I believe it's going to be quite interesting to see how this thing will perform in tier 9, although I would say the Merkava Mk.2B is definitely going to perform really well in tier 9, and well, I believe this thing should also do the same, but we will see that later in combat. But first, let's take a look at the stats of this thing. So it has a 105mm main cannon. Now the speed on paper on this thing does look interesting, but I can definitely tell you this vehicle feels much less maneuverable and much more immobile than the previous Merkava model. The Merkava Mk.2B feels like the most maneuverable one. This thing feels like a chunk, and that's kind of a little disappointment. 400mm average penetration, 6.7 seconds is the reload. Now when we go to the armor inspection, obviously the front of the vehicle will be the thickest. However, I would say this vehicle's armor isn't really the most impressive. In tier 9 you will have a lot of vehicles that will be able to punch through the engine block of the vehicle, and the ammo is stored right behind the engine block. So this Merkava will definitely be more easily ammo-wrecked than the Merkava Mk.2B, because this will be a tier higher in battles. But you do have some armor upgrades, some extra composites, some extra plates, and overall composite screens, which should offer some protection. But again, in tier 9, shells will just fly through vehicles anyway, so in higher tier, in tier 9 especially, and above, armor isn't really going to be that important. However, you could technically still rely on the turret of this vehicle. Still a very small turret, angled, and being a small target is actually going to be much more difficult to aim for it. So hull down with the Merkava Mk.2D is probably going to be the way to go. And with the X-ray you can see that it is about the same layout as with the previous Merkava models. You still have the same engine block, well, not the same engine, but you know, same layout of the engine with the composites, fuel tank, and all that, offering us, you know, technically offering protection to the crew. But in this tier, that's not going to help much. Even the armor being encased in the armor itself isn't going to help. If a shell flies in, if a shell just hits the ammo, this thing will just blow up. And in tier 9, it is a little bit different for the Merkava. In tier 8 might actually be, you know, quite strong, but in tier 9 I believe this vehicle is at a big disadvantage, because other vehicles will have much more powerful main cannons and much better maneuverability. And in top tier, especially in tier 9 and above, speed and overall main cannon performance is going to be a lot more important than armor. That's why the Merkava Mk.2B is a very good balance, because that thing is tier 8, is very decently maneuverable, and for its tier it's a decent cannon. I would say Merkava Mk.2D, it might have maybe a little bit better armor, but the main cannon is definitely one aspect where this vehicle is significantly lacking compared to the other tier 9 vehicles. And this is actually noticeable when we go and look at the ammo options. Maximum ammo penetration on this vehicle is 430mm. You do have HE-ATFS, you do have other type of APFSDS with less penetration. You also have hash and high explosive and smoke. You also have smoke, no high explosive, only hash. But yeah, when it comes to armor penetration, this vehicle definitely doesn't have the best cannon, and you will have to aim at weak spots. And this is one aspect that you might notice, that this vehicle is at a disadvantage when it comes to combat. And speaking of combat, let's actually go and let's see how this vehicle will perform. Now, immediately when I hopped into this vehicle for the first time, I noticed, oh, well, this thing is slow. I actually expected this vehicle to be maybe a little bit more maneuverable, or should I say just a little bit more maneuverable, a little bit faster than the Merkava Mk.2B, but that's not the case. This feels, and this handles and drives like a brick. A very chunky vehicle. So That's one of the things that I don't really like about this tank. It's the lack of maneuverability that you will experience if you are driving this vehicle, and obviously it is a little bit different in tier 9. You can't really just expect your engine block to absorb. You actually have to play a little bit smarter with this vehicle in tier 9, because again, engine block, it might take a hit or two, but I wouldn't rely on that. And it is definitely a lot different from the previous Merkavas, where you can actually rely on the armor. And the extra armor protection isn't really going to do much from my personal experience, although the extra composites, you know, could potentially help against some, I don't know, missiles and stuff like that, but I wouldn't be trusting tandem ATGMs. Those will go through. And it's the first destroyed vehicle. Now, how do you play the Merkava 2D? I would say this vehicle, generally speaking, feels and handles well. Actually, he doesn't handle like a Merkava 2B, definitely, but it does feel like a Merkava. So if you have the Merkava Mark 1, Merkava Mark 2B, and Merkava, well, if you decide to buy this one as well, then you generally experience about the same vehicle. I would say the overall gameplay for the Merkava main battle tank is about the same. Obviously, in tier 9 you have to play a bit more careful. You can't just yeet, and you can't just expect to absorb hits. In tier 9 things are a little bit more serious, and I mean, even in tier 8 you can easily blow up the Merkava Mark 2B. They're not that difficult to deal with, especially once you look at the armor inspection and you realize that, oh look, these things have literally paper armor anyway, which is interesting. I think the Merkava Mark 2B might be the least armored vehicle in tier 9. I mean, again, armor doesn't really matter much in top tier. You should definitely not rely on armor in any way, shape or form in this tier. So the best protection and best armor in top tier is definitely rocks, hills, obstacles and stuff like that. You can't just do the same thing as we are doing in the lower tiers. Oh look, a revenge bomb for me. Thankfully, that's a very small revenge bomb. I can just climb this building. There we go. 0 damage. Okay, that's the worst revenge bomber in top tier. When I get that aircraft, I insta leave the aircraft because it's absolutely useless, especially with the other revenge bombers being a thing. Now, the acceleration on this vehicle is bad. If you want to go, if you're comfortable with the Merkava Mark 2B's reverse acceleration, this is going to feel a lot slower, which is a thing that actually annoys me a little bit, because I do rely on reverse speed a lot. I do play this vehicle with reverse in mind. It is a better reverse than the Merkava Mark 1, but the acceleration is that of a Merkava Mark 1, so you might not get to top speed in reverse on time before the vehicle gets blown up. So again, you will have to be a little bit smarter with the Merkava Mark 2D. I actually also did expect kind of a better cannon on this vehicle, but you still get the same cannon, so I mean, it's not a bad cannon. It's just this cannon feels a little bit underwhelming in tier 9 and above, because you have other vehicles that have much better cannons, and overall those vehicles will perform, at least shell wise, they will perform really well, and in a lot of cases better than the Merkava Mark 2B, Mark 2D, which is honestly very interesting to think about. Well, that vehicle should have been destroyed. I don't know why that shell didn't do anything. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. And they moved back, okay. also feel like the reload on this thing is a little bit slower. I could be wrong though, but I think the Merkava Mk.2D is reloading a little bit faster than this thing. Could be true, could be false, could be the same reload. I don't know. I didn't really look at. I didn't really remember the stats of the reload. And that of course hits the rock because hitboxes are benign. I took a hit and no damage, which is a little bit funny, to be honest. Because just a minute ago I said that you can't run the armor on this thing, and there we go. Engine block hit, but they actually didn't aim correctly. That's why I'm alive. It's actually very easy to pop the ammo on these things. Very easy to pop the ammo on these things. Well, I just have to repair. But overall, I mean, it's a Merkava at the end of the day, so I can't really complain about this vehicle too much. The lack of speed is a little bit disappointing. I can live with the same cannon as with the Merkava Mk.1 and Merkava Mk.2D, since you get about the same ammo as the Merkava Mk.2D, you get about the same penetration as that vehicle as well. It's not bad, it will still get the job done. It's just that other vehicles in the tier offer much better cannon performance, offer much better shells and much better penetration, and in some cases do offer some, well, maybe a little bit better damage. But does that mean that this vehicle doesn't do much damage? Well, no, it definitely does some decent damage, but it is a little bit different situation in top tier with the Merkava. Definitely a lot different. And for this vehicle, I don't really think players can call this pay to win now, because I would actually say that other vehicles, normal tanks in this tier, do feel better than the Merkava Mk.2D. Other vehicles within the tier offer better overall armor, better speed, better ammo. Well, maybe not exactly better armor directly, because you still have the engine block at front, but overall you can't really rely on armor in top tier. But with that being said, tell me what you think about the Merkava Mk.2D. Do you like the vehicle? Do you dislike the vehicle? And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe. As always, I'll see you next time.